Should we start?
Yeah, sure. Tell me how I can help you.
Okay, so to start off, can you tell me more about like Treyon and like the sustainable practices you've implemented into the business?
Okay, so do you want to record or not?
Yes, I'm recording.
Oh, you're recording.
Thank you.
Okay, so there is a lot to say about Treun. So we started the venture over 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. We are still in a early startup stage. Originally, when Treun was created, it was with the idea to create a fashion brand, but really with the objective to make the world a better place. And the original vision was more philanthropy through fashion, and to really use fashion as a vehicle to drive sales for luxury collections, to support charities who do great work both socially and for the environment. So that was really the original vision. And then when I joined, I divided 4 different philanthropic areas. Because when I joined Treun, what I really wanted to do, I was already very much into sustainability, into doing good, into making or driving real change. And as we all know, there is so much to do socially, environmentally. So it's where do you start, you know? And how are we going to select the charities we work with and we support through the sales of our fashion collections? So initially, the team had lots of different areas, and because my specialty is more marketing and communication, I just wanted to segment it, and so that it's easier also for people to understand what we are aiming to do. So I segmented our philanthropic areas into 4, and I call them our planet impact programs. So the first one is about soil, because what people don't realize is that fashion, when it is made of natural materials, which ideally you wish, because if it's not made of natural materials, it's going to be made of materials that come from fossil fuels, plastic, polyester, for example. And we want to go away from this because these materials was first, it's not sustainable, and then also the materials are not biodegradable. So it creates problems also at the end of life of the products when people want to get rid of it, or it ends up in landfills and it ends up polluting, the oceans, the lands, the soil, etc. So for us, really, fashion, this is where it starts. I'm actually having a panel soon at South by Southwest in Texas, and we are going to start with regenerative agriculture, because agriculture and fashion are totally linked with each other. Agriculture is where we grow the crops, where we grow the fabrics, the textiles that we are going to use to create the garments. So it's very important. So that's the first area. Second area that was important for us was the oceans, because the oceans, it is the biggest ecosystem on Earth, and if it is not an healthy ecosystem, it will have a massive impact on life itself on Earth. So in terms of priority and where we should focus, the oceans is very important. Then third is about wildlife conservation, wildlife habitat. And again, there has been a lot of links between fashion and wildlife over the decades and centuries. Even when we look at using materials today, even at Treun, we are using cashmere, for example. So we work hand in hand with the animals. So it's about putting the spotlight on wildlife and biodiversity, because it's a massive area that needs protection and conservation. And we also need to look at all the areas We also need to look at all our business practices that link back to this, to wildlife and to biodiversity. Because every business is concerned by this. We all use raw materials, we all have an impact on the soil, the land, the wildlife, the oceans, as I mentioned. And then the fourth Planet Impact program we have, which I find really important as well, is more humanitarian, human welfare. Because at the end of the day, we all have a responsibility and we are all interconnected. It's about recognizing that there is the connection between everybody, wherever you are in the world, whatever you do, and being inclusive and acknowledge that interconnectedness between everybody. And if you have I don't know what to say, healthy human beings who all care, for the planet, or who are all, working on their own growth, becoming better. Everybody wants to have a voice, everybody wants to feel well, etc. And it can cover many things in terms of charities and supporting people. But, it is recognizing this human value. It's very important. It's not just, we are not disconnected from nature. We are not disconnected from a planet, but we are not disconnected from each other. And it's about bettering these relationships between everybody as well. So that's the fourth important area. Even when you look within the fashion industry itself, there has been a lot of talks about how we treat people who make our garments, that we don't know who they are, how much are they paid, are they well treated, etc., etc. So that's also an important area to look at. So there are these four areas. So that was our overall vision at Trön, philanthropy through fashion. And then when we started the company, we thought, even me when I joined, I was like, oh, does the world need another fashion brand? Probably not, is the answer, like the immediate answer. But then, because it is an industry, like many other industries, that have such big issues to tackle and to solve, it's almost like, yes, we do need new business models. We do need to shift business models that don't serve us, that don't serve the planet anymore. And so when we created Trön, we thought, well, if we are to create a fashion company, even with this great vision of philanthropy through fashion, let's relook at every step of the value chain. So as I said, from agriculture to the end of life of the product and everything in between. And let's try to improve everything we can in between. So that concerns what raw materials do we want to use? How do we grow them? Because using natural materials, for example, is not enough. When I talk about regenerative agriculture, it is important to look at how you grow the crops without harmful chemicals, with respect for the animals, with respect for the farmers, with respect for the land, and make sure also that it has a positive impact on the climate. All of these things are important. And then we looked at how do we want to produce fashion and what impact we want to have on fashion consumption, because something people don't really realize, because, we don't all work in fashion, we are not all in the industry, but we all wear fashion and we all buy fashion, right? Except if you live naked somewhere in an island. But most of the clothes, and things are shifting, thanks God, but it's still small. But most of the clothes that are still produced today on this planet are made with what we call a system of ready-to-wear. So they are going to be produced in big volume, in advance of selling, so they are then going to be delivered to the retailers and people are going to buy them, and you're going to be always incentivized to buy more frequently, on sale, etc., because there are these big volumes that are in stock and you need to buy them. one of the big issues, part of the big issues in fashion, and I always like to give a few key figures to make people aware of the massive scale of the issues we are facing. There are over 100 billion garments produced every single year. Probably more, there are companies like Shein that are probably making it worse now because we are also very successful, sadly. But that's the reality, and we have to face the reality. So these garments, it's already a massive amount produced every single year. We need to consider we are only 8 billion people on one planet. We produce 100 billion garments for 8 billion people every single year, which is crazy in itself. You've probably seen these figures in the news as well, that it has been said that currently today there are enough clothes on the planet to dress the next 6 generations. I would suspect it's going to be even more very soon.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is crazy. And there is an old indigenous concept that I like that says, whatever you do today, consider the 7th generation that comes after you. Mm-hmm. So already we are almost there with fashion, but in a negative way, because we can dress the next 6th generation, so soon it's going to be 7, right?
Yeah.
So we are doing pretty bad from this perspective. And then perhaps a few other key figures that you probably are aware of if you're working on this topic is that we produce 100 billion garments, but we know, and it's a fact, it's well known in the industry, and if it's a fact, again, I suspect it's even more than what the official figures are. Mm-hmm. We know that 1/3 of the 100 billion garments produced every year will never sell. So not only we produce 100 billion garments for 8 billion people, but 1/3 of this number is never going to sell. So it's going to be waste, it's going to be burnt, destroyed, or it's going to end up in landfills. And you're probably aware that there are some massive sites on the planet where clothes end up. Some are in Africa, some are in South America, some are probably playing somewhere in the ocean that we don't see, but we know there. And it's terrible. It just looks like massive dump sites that are so massive that nobody knows what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, as a human species, we have really lost ourselves compared to, other animal species. It's like we don't manage to regulate ourselves, and we don't regulate our waste. We don't regulate what we produce. There isn't a cycle. We at Trön, we love talking about circular economy, because when you have a circular system, you design the products in such a way that you're gonna regulate what you produce, how you produce it, but you're also gonna think about the end of life of the product. You're gonna think about recycling. And moving forward, when we talk about sustainable fashion, it's so important to look at fashion in a circular way, mm-hmm. because otherwise we will never solve these issues of 100 billion garments produced every year, 1/3 at least, mm-hmm. ending up as waste in landfill, being burnt. And when I say 1/3, it's also all the earth resources that you have used to mm-hmm. produce these garments, which, I haven't seen any figures about that, but I would love to, how much cotton does it represent? How much water does it represent? Etc., mm-hmm. because it must be at such a massive scale that it's almost impossible to fathom with your single human mind. It's like, how can we do this? Mm-hmm. And we do it every single year. So there is this to consider. So that's for the production. So for the production at Trön, to tackle this issue, what we have decided is to make our clothes to order. Mm-hmm. So we never produce something that people haven't ordered. So we don't pre-produce, which already reduce the amount dramatically and avoid this waste issue of overstocks inventory. And then you're going to have to drive sales through, discounting, etc. So we don't do that. So made to order. And also something that we have wanted to do and are implementing is made to measure. So to explain to you why, because when I say this, people are like, oh, okay. Because people are used to made to measure for suits, more suits for men, right? That's what comes to mind. But consider that even 200 years ago, which is not far away, 200 years ago, every single clothes was made by hand to measure by tailors. And that's how I came to fashion, by the way, when I was a child. I had a very tall father who would struggle to find clothes to fit him, and he liked nice suits. And he would always have his suits made by tailors, by hand. And that's what I fell in love with, really, and the creativity that goes with it, and the kind of very human and bespoke aspect of it. But people are not used to this. They are used to ready-to-wear, clothes that are already on hangers, in shops, in volumes, and, that's what we are used to. So it's almost like rewiring our brains to think of ways to do things differently and better. Because we have these massive issues, as I said, of producing so many clothes, and we also waste so much in the process. Is how can we stop that? Take a step backwards. And it's almost like going back in time, but to look forward to the future. Because with the new technologies, and we are working with incredible partners, and actually at the panel I mentioned where I will be in Texas, we are working with a partner called DXM, and they have this technology called Platform, where they allow brands to produce to order, but also to measure. And everything is integrated from start to finish, from the raw materials, where it's going to be produced, when the consumer order, and etc. So that's great. And the advantage of making to measure as well is that when you look at how people buy today, we buy more and more online. It has developed a lot these past 10, 15 years, and now, it's part of everyday life for everybody. One of the issues of buying online now is that one of the main returns, when people buy garments, they receive the garments at home, they try them on, and it doesn't fit, or, they don't like it. But the fit is the main issue that is mentioned. The idea of making the clothes to measure with Treun is that people can try them on virtually. So we are going to do it in different ways depending on people's preferences. But basically, they can enter their body measurements. That's the best way, because then you will be sure that the clothes will fit your own body. And again, today, if you look at the ready-to-wear industry, you have, if I simplify it, you have 5 main sizes that are being produced in high volumes, as we spoke about. 5 main sizes to fit the bodies of 8 billion people.
It's not.
It is crazy, right? Because we are all different, all type of body shapes, body heights, etc., right? So it doesn't work. So that's also the beauty of made to measure. It's something a lot more inclusive, but also it's going to solve a big part of the returns, of the online returns we see, because of the fit. And also, every time someone creates a return, and again, that's not something people are so aware of today, but first it creates more emissions because it's additional transport, right? So that's one thing. But the second thing is that many brands do not put the clothes that are returned back in circulation. They are being discarded many times. So that's a double issue here. So this is why both made to order and made to measure are important. I hope I've been clear on the why.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So made to order, made to measure. So that's more about the production part. Obviously, because I'm more a marketing and communication person, for me the challenge, is gonna be about showing the value of doing this to people, because obviously we are talking about changing our habits. We are all used to buy online, to go to shops. We are all used to see a lot of trends of new product launches. We are all used to this. And it's really all about showing why do we want to make the clothes to order and to measure, and what are the benefits, and showing this very clearly, very visually, and show the impact it can have. And that part of it for me is essential, because we can offer the best technology, the best product in the world. If people don't buy it, it's all for nothing. So we have to be able to connect with people and to create this kind of connections with them, so that they understand the value of, perhaps I need to start looking at these brands that do things in a more sustainable way. Perhaps I need to start looking at brands that create clothes to order and to measure when they understand the value of why. And because I think a lot of people care, about the planet, about these issues. I hear a lot of people say, oh, how can I contribute? What can I do? But here are concrete solutions. But it's not because the concrete solutions exist that people take action, right? We all know that. We are all there. I'm there as well. So this part of it for me is something that really matters, and I think it matters for any sector. It's how can we shift, because one, you have these brands like Treun, but others, who create great things. But then there are the people, there is the demand, and the two need to meet together. So for me, that's a really important aspect that I don't think is really talked a lot about, but that's really important. So there is this. I'm thinking what else. Then as part of other sustainable shifts, practices that we have started to implement. So it concerns the product itself. So I talked about the fact we want to use natural materials. There could be cotton, there could be really sustainable plants like hemp, for example. Hemp is one of the most sustainable plants on the planet, so it's a really good one to look at. But as I said, it's not because you use a natural material like cotton is a good example. It can be grown with lots of chemicals. Using traditional agriculture, industrial agriculture. It can use horrendous amounts of water, not even talking about, the people who actually are involved in the supply chain. But it can also be done in a very good way, much more organic. As soon as you grow plants and crops using regenerative agriculture, immediately you enter a much better circle between humans and nature. Even for the quality of life, of the farmers, it is such a better way of working, of growing, the crops. So again, it's not because you use natural materials that it's gonna be all good. So there are subtle, differences to know. And then, but then the beauty of using natural materials is that they are going to biodegrade. And that's important because, again, you need to think about the end of life of the product. Then there isn't only one solution as well. That's something important to say, because I think, if we work in the sustainable space, and here we are talking about fashion, there is never going to be only one solution. There will be multiple, and don't feel guilty if you are not buying clothes to measure, for example, to order or to measure like we will do at Treun. You can also, go to a platform that recycle the clothes. It can be second-hand, and that's a great solution as well because it keeps clothes in circulation, for example. So one thing we have planned to do at Treun is some of our collections will actually use what we call dead stock materials. So it is fabrics that have already been produced, that are already sitting somewhere in a warehouse and are not being used. So because we have a positioning of luxury, we plan to use more luxury fabrics. But they are fabrics that are already there sitting somewhere, and we are going to create limited editions with them. We have especially a whole range of caps that will be coming using this. But even for the garments, we have our fashion manager who is working with several companies. I can cite a few like Renewcell, Lenzing, and these companies have created fabrics that recycle old garments, for example, or and then you create a new fabric with it. But basically, it's a recycled fabric to create new clothes. So all of these solutions are really good. And again, there is a palette. So for us at Treun, we've always said with our team, we don't want to limit ourselves to only one solution because there are multiple. And, for us, collaborations are very key. That's another aspect also, I think, of if we really want to go toward a more sustainable solutions, a more circular economy, we all have to work together. Because in the world today, there are many people creating many solutions. But then, like I said, we need to connect brands and the end consumer. We also need to connect all of these brands, all of these suppliers that are creating incredible solutions and put them together. So we have one person in our team that's dedicated to this, to sourcing suppliers who are creating great recycled fabrics, great packaging solutions. For example, we've started to work with Notpla, and they won the Earth Prize. Earth Prize. And basically their packaging is made of seaweed, it is even more than recyclable. It is biodegradable. Literally, you can put it in the soil and it will biodegrade in no time. So that's the best solution because, again, when you look at the packaging industry and the packaging we used, and again, there has been progress, great. But we still, there is still
it needs
so much
more.
And we use so much packaging every time I buy something almost. So, of course, there are new solutions that have come up, but still, I go to a fashion store today, they give me a bag to put the garments, So we are using Notpla for their seaweed packaging and then 2 different types. We have also looked at some really cool, exciting solutions of packaging that people can reuse for something else, so they can keep the bag. Etc. Again, it's really looking at how you design the product at the beginning and making sure to ask yourself the questions: how is it sustainable? How is it circular? What is going to be the impact both socially and for the environment? And from there, you start to create your product and your offer. So it really starts at the beginning with design, really. So there is this. There is more that I could tell you that we are looking at. We've been looking also, because we are a new brand, it applies less to us, but there are great platforms today. Once you are in business, that your people buy your clothes. You can form agreements with certain platforms when the people who have bought your clothes can recycle them after. So and they can register them, because what we plan also is for all our garments we'll have like a digital ID inside. And so that allows you, when you buy the product, to track it. How has it been made? What has been the journey of production? So we will give all of these details. But also, once you've bought it, you still have the tag, and then you can register your cloth to one of these second-hand platforms really easily, and we can know that.
Okay.
So the traceability element of the products is also very important, right?
And
so there is this.
I have a question about like in implementing all of these. Like, is there any like drawbacks or like disadvantages it has bring to you guys? Because you guys are bringing a lot out to the table and to like the world and to just the environment and as customers. But is there anything that is like bad for you guys as a business because of the things you do?
I would say the only thing for us has been about financing, the financial side of the venture, because again we are a startup. There are a lot of people at the moment creating startups, and the economy hasn't been that good. And in the past 2 years, actually, investments have kind of slowed down. And you do compete with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think it has been our main struggle. And also as a small startup, you really compete with big brands, with big companies. But I had this discussion with someone recently that, you're never going to compete with an Amazon or the Amazons of the world, when you start as a startup. And it all comes down to how human your company is and how you're going to connect with your ideal audience. So you need to be able to determine your ideal audience, to connect with it and to find it. And then it's all, the most human companies will always win.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to connect with your audience in such a way. And then I think today and in today's world, when we can all connect so easily in web, not so easily in fact, because it's so easy that it's like, where do you start?
Yeah.
How can I connect to my ideal audience? But it's all about, finding your own and creating your own genuine community.
Yeah.
Because if you can do that, then you're going to be successful. And there will always be someone who resonates with your products. And if you build it well, then it's going to be about finding your market, but also conveying the right messages. And it's all about this connection together, again, with the brand and the end consumer. But not only that, for us, I think I mentioned that earlier, but for us, the power of collaborations is everything. Today, you can really amplify your voice if you collaborate with the right people who have similar goals to you, so are going to work, in the sustainability space as well, want to do something around fashion, and are going to really have the same goals and the same authentic, genuine wish to create a better world, and especially here in the fashion industry.
And with like a lot of companies now adopting sustainability, how have you guys like find ways to like compete with them, like differentiate? Because it is very hard, because back then sustainability wasn't much of a thing, and like smaller startups can like really like use that as their selling point, but now it's getting more and more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, the most important thing is first avoid comparison, because it will lead you absolutely nowhere. So don't compare yourself to others. It's important to know who is out there, because it can be an inspiration as well. And, we all inspire each other. You need to get out there always and what's happening. But really the most important thing to consider is what is your difference? What do you bring to the table? And you've got to define that from the start. And it can include various elements. It can include the design of your clothes. So for us, from the start at Trön, for example, we've decided to, for the design direction, to be a mix of casual and formal, which not so many people do today. But during COVID, we all went casual, for example.
Yeah.
Great. And we all went back to work, and what we wanted to do, because one of our co-founders at Trön used to work at Wall Street. It was men all dressed in suits, like super suited.
Yeah.
And he's always wanted something more casual than a suit, but still something really stylish and elegant that you can still wear in the boardroom, and you don't have to be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And then, we all have more fluid lives today. You can go to work during the day, but perhaps after you want to meet a friend at a cafe or at an art gallery, go out in the evening, and you don't forcefully want to change your clothes.
Yeah.
So that was also the idea that, you will still really look very stylish and elegant, but also there is this casual and comfortable element. So that's the design direction that we have given for our line of products, both men and women. And then, it is about working with a talented fashion designer, so that, we all buy visually, first.
Yeah.
That's how I buy. I see something I really like, I'm going to look into
Yeah.
it. That visual, that style element, that design element is extremely important. That's going to create a difference. The second very important thing I would say is all about your brand storytelling. And in this area, we are lucky. We have a whole universe that we have created because, again, one of our founders has Scottish origins. We are using the, the unicorn as an emblem in our logo, which is very modern. You wouldn't know it's a unicorn in it, but there is a story to tell people about it. And for us, the story of Scotland and the unicorn is about being a change maker. Because when you are talking about sustainable fashion and making a statement with the clothes you buy, you are already being a change maker. And that's what a lot of people, if you really want to create a difference in the world today, you have to be a change maker. So many people these past years have been, to conferences, to panels, with people who are doing great things in their own areas, and then so many times I heard these questions to them, like, do you consider yourself as an activist? And then they pause and like, yeah, I guess I am an activist. I am, because I'm doing something. And that's the idea of it, being a change maker, being an activist through your choices, and that includes your choices of clothes, what you buy, what you wear, what you do with them. So I think there are these two things to answer your question. I think definitely the design direction, the quality, what's going to matter to your audience. You really need to start by defining your audience as well. What do they want to buy? And also meeting that, but also the brand storytelling, because we all connect through stories. So the richer, the more on point your storytelling is going to be, the better, again, you're going to connect with your audience. Because, if you don't connect, you're going to stay here. You're not going to connect.
That's a difficult part, like trying to connect and find your niche.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Thank you so much for this. And it's almost time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, so.
You're welcome. It's fine. I mean, I'm passionate about everything sustainability. If you've got any further questions, do not hesitate to email me if you want. I'm happy to answer anything further you would need. If there is something you forgot, or I'm happy to do that.
Thank you so much for this. I'll sure to email you if I do have any other questions. And I really
Okay.
appreciate this.
Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you.